For making fun of Girl Scouts, he was let go from Men's Health. Fired after employing dwarves to disrupt a business convention for Stuff magazine. After he oversaw a sharp decline in circulation, his contract at Maxim UK expired without being renewed. Greg Gutfeld was expelled from every significant publication he had ever owned by 2006. He was dismissed as unemployed by the media elite. Subsequently, Fox News contacted with an odd proposal: host a show at 3 a.m., a time slot so lifeless that executives joked that his sole viewers would be nursing mothers and speed dealers. No one thought he would last 3 months. By today's standards, that same reject has more viewers than Kimmel, Fallon, and Colbert do combined. He was never on late-night television, yet he became the unquestioned king of late-night. But it wasn't by accident that television dominated after a string of failures. It required creating a cult following among insomniacs, needing a Russian model in Portugal, getting fired multiple times, and completely changing the rules of American talk shows. We must go back to the beginning of the destructive trend in order to comprehend how a man who was unable to maintain employment for longer than 2 years became the most watched personality in his time slot. Gregory John Gutfeld was born in San Mateo, California, on September 12, 1964. The children were brought up in a Catholic home by his mother, Jackie. The all-boys Catholic Junipero Serra High School, where young Greg was educated, also produced baseball great Barry Bonds and NFL quarterback Tom Brady. The mid-1980s saw him enroll in the University of California, Berkeley. In surprising ways, this decision would shape a future conservative media star. The liberal atmosphere of Berkeley did not win him over. He was repulsed. His eventual explanation would be that he got libertarian by being among conservatives and conservative by being with liberals. He saw that the worst aspects of both groups had one thing in common: moralizing and instructing others on how to live. He disapproved of the purity tests for either trib. Following his English degree graduation in 1987, Gutfeld secured an internship at the American Spectator, where he performed errands for the publication's infamously challenging editor, Art Emtt Tyrell. He learned how conservative media functioned inside from the encounter. However, Gutfeld strayed into the realm of men's lifestyle publications because magazines didn't pay well. At Prevention Magazine, a health-focused magazine, where he began working as a staff writer, he started drinking excessively and doing drugs at what his co-workers called a prodigious rate. He would spend years living the party lifestyle. In the end, he made his way to Men's Health, the authoritative source on abs and fitness advice that ruled newsstands during the 1990s. Gutfeld was promoted to editor-in-chief by 1999. At the age of 35, he was in charge of one of America's most prosperous men's magazines. Then he was let go. Depending on who told the story, the official explanations differed. In his published works, Gutfeld had made fun of his own boss, cat lovers, and Girl Scouts. The parent business of the magazine concluded that he was not worth the hassle. According to one media site, his career trajectory was both remarkable and disheartening. He kept climbing to the top of the ladder before falling back down. However, failure did not teach Gutfeld to be cautious. He increased the level of pandemonium. Stuff Magazine, a magazine that concentrated on women, technology, and everything young guys were meant to be interested in, was the next place he went. Gutfeld increased readership from 750,000 to 1.2 million, turning it from a mediocre book into a circulation powerhouse. He completely distorted it, pushing the envelope to the point where marketers accepted it because the statistics continued to rise. Then the event that would shape his career in magazines occurred. What Gives a Magazine Buzz was a symposium hosted by the American Society of Magazine Editors in April 2003. Gutfeld made the decision to take that question literally. He sent 3 short-lived actors he had hired from a casting agency to the meeting with the directive to cause as much disruption as possible. They loudly chewed on potato chips. Their phones rang and rang and rang. While business leaders attempted to speak, they engaged in boisterous discussions. Security kicked them out. The New York Times featured the story. Gutfeld was dismissed right away. It would have been the end of most careers. His certainly appeared to. At this point, no prominent American magazine would cover him. His fame had come for all the wrong reasons. But for Greg Gutfeld, being fired from America wasn't enough. He made the decision to banish himself to another continent. In 2004, London provided Gutfeld with a new beginning. It appears that no one in the UK was aware of the dwarf event, and the British edition of Maxim required an editor-in-chief. Maybe they had, but they just didn't give a damn. Gutfeld packed his things and headed across the Atlantic anyhow. He had to travel to Portugal for a company conference during his first week on the job. The publisher brought together editors from all across the world to debate strategy, and Maxim has editions in more than 30 countries. Gutfeld went to his hotel room and started to get comfortable. The woman in the next room caught his attention. Elena Musa was a tall, dark-haired photographer for Maxim Russia. Before switching to magazine work, she had begun her career as a runway model. She instantly drew Gutfeld's attention at the Portugal conference. Later on, he would refer to the experience as instant recognition. "That's my wife." He just knew it as he looked at her. Elena's refusal to interact with him was the issue. Gutfeld pursued her with what he acknowledged was stupid perseverance for 3 days. She continued to be aloof, contemptuous, and uninterested in the small American editor who kept showing up everywhere she went. At last, he asked her out on a date. "Yes," she replied. There was a change between them. Elena moved to London from Russia to be with him in a matter of weeks. From the outside, the connection grew at a rate that would have appeared reckless. When they were married in a modest civil ceremony in New York, they had only known each other for 5 months. There weren't many wedding photos. They both favored seclusion over publicity. In his 2008 book, Gutfeld wrote about Elena and how, rather than hiding in their apartment and watching reality TV, she encouraged him to properly explore London. He had never found steadiness in bars or magazine offices like she provided. But his career wouldn't be saved by steadiness. Gutfeld's time at Maxim UK ended with unsatisfactory outcomes. Under his direction, circulation fell. The corporation decided not to extend his contract when it ended in 2006. Now 41, he was unemployed once more, newly married, and without any clear prospects. They moved to New York City together. Elena started pursuing her own business as a fashion stylist and eventually worked for magazines such as Design Scene, L'Oréal, and Venice Magazine. In 2017, she received her degree from Parsons School of Design. However, both Gutfelds had to start anew in 2006. It seemed like career suicide when Greg accepted a bizarre employment. He started writing for the Huffington Post. Gutfeld's contempt for leftist media was embodied by the Huffington Post. However, founder Arianna Huffington embraced conservative viewpoints on her platform, and Gutfeld saw a chance to instigate internal strife. His post gained notoriety for what onlookers described as inspired lunatic ridicule of other bloggers. He made fun of Arianna herself. He disparaged other authors. Every comment area became a battleground because of him. One of those comment sections caught the eye of Andy Levy, another blogger. After exchanging insults, the two realized they had similar sensibilities. Serious, dark, and ready to hurt someone's feelings for a good joke. Soon, that online sparring would grow into something more important. Because someone at Fox News was watching Gutfeld. Irritate liberals online. In late 2006, there was a phone call. The goal of Fox News was to start a late-night program. Was Gutfeld intrigued? His answer was prompt and truthful. He was in debt. He would do anything. He was flown to New York by Fox for meetings. It was a strange pitch. The network sought to fill an unwatched time slot. The show was originally slated to air at 2 a.m., when the majority of Americans would be asleep. Gutfeld quipped that the target demographic included convicts, speed dealers, and nursing mothers. Many letters from prisoners were received. The program debuted as Red Eye on February 5, 2007. Gutfeld anticipated weeks of meticulous planning and rehearsals. Executives informed him instead that they would begin in 3 days. The group practiced in the green room. The cameramen, like everyone else, were intoxicated. The mood was more like a home party than a television show. 2 a.m. was Red Eye's debut time. After viewing the first several episodes, Fox executives concluded that the material was too graphic for that time slot. They decided to reschedule it for 3 a.m., where the number of complaints would be lower. By now, Gutfeld had been degraded within his own program before it attracted viewers. However, during those silent hours of the night, something unexpected occurred. Red Eye gained a devoted fan base. The format of the broadcast challenged every cable news standard. Gutfeld would make ridiculously grandiose remarks while introducing panelists. The subjects covered included pop culture, politics, and utter stupidity. Nothing was holy. Nothing was holy. Fox News itself started to receive a lot of derision. The humor was unlike anything else on TV, dark, and the most ridiculous. Andy Levy, Gutfeld's Huffington Post sparring companion, joins as the show's ombudsman. The assigned companion was Bill Schultz, a co-worker from the days of Gutfeld Stuff magazine. The three developed an improbable chemistry. Levy was the snark machine of the deadpan. Schultz was the affectionate loser. Like a cunning ringmaster, Gutfeld ruled over the mayhem. On Red Eye, Jackie, Gutfeld's mother, started to appear frequently. The joke was that she was old, he explained, and he gave her the title of senior correspondent. Watching Fox News during the day and reporting on events was her job. She was always complaining about how low the skirts of the women on screen were. Gutfeld would reply that those skirts were appreciated by other spectators. It felt authentic to watch the mother-son bond unfold on video. As a child, Gutfeld had been ashamed to present his parents to others. He discovered as an adult that those same buddies favored spending time with Jackie over with him. Audiences warmed to her non-frivolous honesty. She encouraged her kid in whatever he tried, even when it looked like failure was inevitable. Red Eye wasn't supposed to work. A performance at 3 a.m. Without a budget, inebriated cameramen, and seemingly random subjects, they had no chance of drawing viewers. Still, the ratings increased. Despite running in the middle of the night, the show started to outperform primetime cable news programs. Then, in July 2011, Fox presented Gutfeld with a more ambitious offer, a brand new daytime program named The Five Needed Hosts. 5 pundits would discuss politics and news every weekday at 5 p.m. Those 5 would include Gutfeld. The 5 turned into a phenomenon. The show became the first non-prime television program to reach the top spot in terms of both overall viewers and the important adult 25 to 54 demographic. Suddenly, instead of only a few thousand people, Gutfeld was being seen by millions. However, he continued to host Red Eye 2, performing both programs concurrently for over 4 more years. There had to be an end to the grind. Gutfeld declared his intention to leave Red Eye in order to concentrate on a new project in February 2015. The 3 a.m. The show had fulfilled its objective. Greg Gutfeld has demonstrated his ability to captivate an audience even when no one was aware of it. Fox now desired a real-time slot to see what he could accomplish. On May 31, 2015, The Greg Gutfeld Show debuted as a weekly Saturday night show at 10 p.m. The format combined aspects of variety shows with political satire. Gutfeld gave one-man shows. Newsmakers were interviewed by him. Comedian Kat Tim, who contributed a libertarian viewpoint and quick humor, and professional wrestler Tyrus, whose imposing appearance contrasted with remarkably insightful analysis, were frequent panelists. Gutfeld continued his daily appearances on The 5, and the show ran on the weekends for 6 years. He worked non-stop to develop a following of devoted viewers who continued to watch each performance. Broadcast networks' late-night hosts hardly mentioned him at all. Fox News' Saturday show was not seen as competition by them. Next came 2021. The Greg Gutfeld Show would rename itself simply Gutfeld and relocate to weeknights, according to a Fox News announcement. At 11 p.m., the new show would debut. Eastern, in direct competition with Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, and Stephen Colbert. Industry watchers foresaw failure. How might a news program on a cable network compete with one on a broadcast network? How could a conservative comedian draw viewers who had spent more than 20 years favoring Jon Stewart and his successors? It was a prompt response. By August 2021, Gutfeld's ratings had surpassed those of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Every night, the show attracted more than 2 million people on average, more than any rival on broadcast or cable. The man who began at 3 in the morning now took over at 11 p.m. The outcast had assumed the role of king. The figures only got better. Over 5 million people watched Gutfeld and the Five together on average at the end of 2021. With 2.5 million viewers in a single night in October 2022, Gutfeld achieved its best rating ever. Those numbers would be too high for any late-night program. Fox relocated Gutfeld to 10 o'clock p.m. in June 2023. Eastern. The show was no longer technically a late-night competitor as a result of the change. Opponents claimed that a 10 o'clock p.m. constituted cheating. Show is not comparable to shows that air at 11:30. Gutfeld was unconcerned with the details. His audience continued to increase because he cared about them. The popularity of the show was a reflection of bigger shifts in American media habits. With hosts portraying conservative viewers as the adversary, traditional late-night programming has become more politically charged. Gutfeld proposed a substitute. Though Democrats took the brunt of his comedy, it was directed at both parties when they earned it. More significantly, his show had an authenticity that was lacking in well-executed broadcast productions. He was reportedly dubbed the most dangerous man on television by the Weekly Standard. As a stink bomb dropped into every movie studio, nonprofit boardroom, faculty lounge, and mainstream newsroom in America, Gutfeld's work was truly subversive in contrast to other media figures. He had found his audience by being himself a troublemaker who was fired from every respectable job he had before landing somewhere that valued chaos rather than by following trends. Neither Gutfeld nor anybody else could have imagined how the later parts of his story would play out. He made a shocking announcement in December 2024 to longtime viewers. Greg Gutfeld had his first child at the age of 60. Mira is the daughter he and Elena welcomed into the world. In an episode of The Five, Gutfeld made the announcement while making jokes about his daughter's remarkable lungs and his intentions to teach her 3 languages. No children had been born after 20 years of marriage. Then, Gutfeld became a first-time parent at a time when most men his age were considering grandchildren. His life suddenly took on a whole new dimension for the private man who seldom ever spoke about his wife on camera. His ongoing domination in the workplace coincided with the announcement of the baby. Gutfeld continued to be the most watched program in its competitive group by 2025. He regularly surpassed 3 million viewers, while his closest competitors on the program barely managed to achieve 2 million. Someone who was rejected by the industry as unsuited for television had changed the late-night scene. Part of the story can be told by comparing him to his rivals. The production of broadcast late-night shows is said to cost about $100 million a year. A small portion of such resources were used by Gutfeld. His show never attempted to equal Colbert's or Fallon's production values, instead embracing its more modest beginnings. His approach to failure had turned out to be prophetic. He maintained that the best thing somebody could experience was being dismissed. People believe their careers are ended when they get fired. Actually, you always wind up somewhere better. He had repeatedly lived by that concept, using every termination as a springboard rather than a dead end. Only in hindsight did the pattern become evident. Gutfeld was pushed toward a setting where his unique skills could flourish with each dismissal. Conformity was the goal of Men's Health. Things desired to be sane. Growing circulation was what Maxim UK desired. They were all against a provocateur who employed dwarves to sabotage trade shows. For instance, the 3 a.m. Fox News. Finally, a time slot that no one cared about gave Gutfeld the freedom to be himself. Elena was mostly forgotten throughout his ascent. She kept up her fashion career, making sporadic appearances on his Instagram but staying away from his television shows. It was precisely because she avoided the spotlight that their love endured. Using his connections at Fox News, Gutfeld assisted in the evacuation of Elena's mother from Lviv to Poland during Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. One of the few times his personal and professional lives came together in public, he shared the reunion tape on television. When Gutfeld was sitting broke at a Chelsea pub in 2006, No one could have guessed that he would be in this situation at the height of his career. The man who jokingly remarked that his initial audience was made up of tired parents and criminals had constructed something strong from that base. In addition to Fox devotees, he attracted a growing number of independent viewers and even Democrats who thought the other broadcast options were boring. One story is revealed by the numbers. More than 5 million people watched both shows together, with over 3 million viewers each night. CBS was compelled to consider whether the late program could continue due to its domination in the ratings. But the figures don't tell us why it was successful. Somewhere in that sequence of failure and reinvention is the solution. Gutfeld never made an effort to become what the industry desired. He was fired for being challenging, pushing boundaries, and refusing to control his emotions. He eventually discovered a position where those very attributes were advantages rather than problems. Greg Gutfeld demonstrated to the largest late-night television viewership, speed dealers, and nursing mothers that occasionally the 3 a.m. The unchallenged king is rejected. He found an audience that desired what he had been providing all along, not by altering who he was.